With me, Congressman David Cicilline, Democrat from the great state of Rhode Island, who serves in the House Judiciary Committee. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good to be with you.
Do you know if Robert Mueller, the special prosecutor, is a good friend of former FBI Director James Comey?
I don't, but it should be clear that the president doesn't have the authority to fire Robert Mueller. He's appointed by the Attorney General, in this case the Assistant Attorney General, since Jeff Sessions has recused himself, and that's the person who hired him. That's the person that can fire him. So the president would have to direct Rod Rosenstein to do it. If he declined, he would have to fire Rod Rosenstein, hire somebody else willing to follow his order. This is a decision of the Assistant Attorney General. Not the president's.
So Rod Rosenstein has the decision. All right, if Mueller and Comey are friends, you're a former public defender, right?
Yes, and criminal defense lawyer.
We both were. Okay. Would you have a problem with Mueller being the one to investigate this if in a he says, Comey is one of the he said, and if he and Comey are friends?
Absolutely not. Look, Robert Mueller has impeccable integrity. When he was confirmed to be the FBI director, the vote was 98-0. Every Republican and every Democrat supported him. His reputation is impeccable. No one has questioned his professionalism. He has the ability to conduct this Russia investigation.
You know what, Congressman?
Yes.
In all due respect, I don't believe he is a former public defender. I don't think if you knew a judge was somehow friendly with a witness in a case, you wouldn't have filed a motion to recuse. I don't believe. Honestly,
no, absolutely
not.
And it wouldn't be appropriate.
Everybody says that Mueller's
honorable. Look, it wouldn't be appropriate. There's no. This investigation is about whether or not the Russian interference in our election included collusion from the Trump campaign. Jim Comey relates to one part of a potential obstruction of justice by the president. But the investigation that is the central part of this inquiry is what the Russians did to interfere with our presidential election and whether or not the Trump campaign was included. The fact that he has a friendship with a potential witness in that is really right. These are professionals, and I think if someone like Robert Mueller is going to have friends with
defender, I don't. You know what? You and I need to have a cup of coffee to have a different conversation about this.
Because happy to have a cup of coffee, but I don't think it requires recusal. I think this is an effort by the president to undermine Robert Mueller.
Listen, Robert Mueller has an impeccable reputation. I'm not in any way trying to tarnish it.
If he thought he couldn't do this job objectively and impartially, he'd recuse himself. I absolutely don't believe it's appropriate.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. The Code of Professional Responsibility. If they're friends, I don't even know that they are friends. If they're friends, it doesn't say actual conflict. It says if it has the appearance of impropriety. And we've got such a hot potato case out here where 50% of the country thinks one thing and 50% thinks the other. And so if the investigator has a friendship with a key witness, that's the problem I have, is that that's where I think that we're getting in trouble, no matter how perfect Bob Mueller is for the case.
Yeah, again, I don't think when you talk about the purpose and the scope of this investigation, it has to do with Russian interference with our presidential election and whether or not there's collusion between that and the Trump campaign. Jim Comey's involvement, if any, was when he was the victim of an attempt to obstruct justice and was discharged. That doesn't relate to the underlying investigation about Russia's conduct. Yeah.
Do you think that Bob Mueller is going to investigate whether or not the president was trying to intimidate him with that tweet?
Well, I think it's very clear that by the president's own admission today that his hope was to kind of force Jim Comey to tell the truth. I think most of us believed he was going to tell the truth under oath anyway, but the president was successful. Told the truth about loyalty oaths.
Do you think that's witness intimidation, the president's tweet?
No, I think it was a dumb tweet. I don't think it's witness intimidation because Jim Comey was apparently trying to be bullied into being truthful. He was going to be truthful anyway. And I think the president proved by saying there might be tapes out there when Jim Comey testifies, thinking there might be tapes, then that gives more veracity to his testimony. So the president proved that Jim Comey was a truthful person under oath unwittingly by making that tweet. So I don't think that amounts to obstruction.
All right, well, let me just repeat so I don't get a million emails that Bob Mueller in this town has a very, very, very good reputation, and I don't mean to in any way impugn his reputation, but I can see what's going to happen down the road on this one as we move on. At least I think I do. Congressman, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.